Thank you for joining us. We have Nola and myself today on this Saturday, as well as Eleanor up in Canada. We were just chatting with. And I just want to welcome everybody to just take a deep breath and arrive here. So if you don't mind putting your feet flat on the floor and breathing into your belly through your nose. And just let out a sigh. Do that a couple more times just to be here. And one more time. And thank you for joining the circle. And just think about something you're grateful for about yourself today. And that just raises the energy to make us smile when we think of what we're grateful for about ourselves and our environment and where we're at in our life. I think that's so important to take time out and appreciate where we're at, because through many struggles and adventures, it is amazing and a miracle that we are all here today, right now, with each other. And if you don't mind starting off this session with a piece of paper and a pen, I just want you to think about, as kind of a theme of this talk, which is all about money, what change, large or small, would give you the greatest sense of financial ease in your life on the day-to-day level? What change, large or small, would give you the greatest sense of financial ease in your day-to-day life right now? Just jot down what comes up in your mind. And I'm going to, as you think about it, pass over to Nola a wonderful inspiration that she has to share with you.
Yes, good morning, everybody. It's lovely here, a little bit of rain happening in Santa Barbara, California, and I understand we're going to have some cooler weather. It's been in the 70s and into the 80s here. Anyway, that's my weather report from where I live, and I'd like to say that I'm glad to be online with all of you. If you have any questions or input, by all means, just speak up. I would like to introduce you to the work of someone who's been a counselor to me. He is a Jungian therapist. And when I did my travels through the 80s and 90s, I took him and one other teacher with me in the form of their tapes and their meditations. And his name is David Richo. It's Richo. He's here in Santa Barbara part-time, in San Francisco part-time, and I believe in Italy, which is where his family's from. So he wrote this called The Sacred Heart of the World. Something we know not what is always and everywhere lovingly at work. We know not how to make us more than we are yet, to make the world more than it is now. That something is all at once God, the life force of nature, and our own unique aliveness. Together, they're one sacred heart, never apart. So if that resonates with you, I was wanting to share that with you. He also has a website, daverico.com. So that was my kind of introduction to why it's been so important to me to acknowledge and work with daily my higher power. I very much believe that we're not on this journey alone. In addition to the people that we love and that are around us and our angels, if we believe in them, which I do, that surround us, there is a higher power at work. Anyone that recognizes the synchronicity in life recognizes that higher power at work. And I happen to believe in my 84 years, I can now claim, of living, that the power of the universe, which I call love, the law of the universe, wants us to be all that we want to be. And it reacts to everything we think, we say, and we do. That's what creates our world. And I really believe this, and I've put it to the test in my life with my personal relationships and building business. And it works. It works so with such synchronicity that it makes me laugh at times. I'll expand into that. Okay, today, in looking and working with my daughter Elizabeth on our workshop plans, I wanted to create three simple steps about money, all about money. What is it we need to pay attention to in our lives about money? And what I've learned its rules are, its laws are, and some of the stories when we don't work with the energy of money and we don't work with that higher power that wants us to succeed. And then what happens when we do work with it? What's accomplished is so, I don't want to say automatic, but so creatively with ease. It just happens. That phone rings, that person walks in. Um, anyway, I'll get into each of these stories that'll tell you something about it. So, how am I going to break down this talk today? I'm going to invite you to look at three different areas around money. And I'm going to be doing this in a three parts um, procedure over the next 3 months. This is month number one. We're going to look at how to stabilize income. Where are you today? And where do you want to be? Whatever date you set, 30 days from now, 1 year from now, 5 years from now. And how do we get there? The second part is creating new income streams. And the third part is investing the values you have. And they are what makes money work in your world. Three things: your time, where do you put your time? Your talents and your assets. Then, if we have time, I'd like to go into just a kind of updates on some investments to consider. So let's get started. Anything we want to talk about, Elizabeth, on what change would that you want to ease in your life? Do we want to maybe have everybody go around and say what that would be? And that would give me a sense of what people want to focus on.
Yeah, I think it's to repeat the question for those that came on later to think about is what change, large or small, would give you the greatest sense of financial ease in your day to day life right now? And I open up the conversation. You'll have to unmute yourself if you're willing to just share what you wrote down. Anybody in the circle, it will help guide us on how to better talk about this great subject of all about money. Does anybody volunteer to start with? All right. Well, I guess I will start. The greatest sense of financial ease in my day-to-day life is increasing my income by about $5,000 a month. So that's what my goal is to work towards. That would cover a lot of my emergency funds, and that would be some money for investments and to pay back all the loans that I have over time. So increasing my income would be giving me the greatest sense of ease. So that's where I'm at.
So I'll say that increasing mine would be by $1,500 a month Canadian.
All right.
Good. Good. Anybody else want to make a statement about what their goal is?
Okay, I'll go. So my goal is to build a new home.
Oh, good.
So
And welcome, Rena. Thanks for talking and sharing in the circle.
thank you.
Glad you're
Hi,
here.
Rena. It's been a long time.
I know how you doing, Nola.
Oh, so much better. I've
Oh,
got,
I'm so glad. I'm so glad. This is
you know,
very
it's
nice of you guys. I need all the help I can get.
yeah. And when Elizabeth proposed this to me, I thought, why don't we have this kind of an idea going? We can do it every month so that when things come up, if you set your goals and I can insist in some way in what each one of you are particularly doing to reach those goals. And then we check in with each other. I think we'll get a much more spirited and interactive group. But to start with, you have to get familiar with each other and with me. I think most of you have Elizabeth in common. We all do. We all do.
If
Um, so,
if I might, really super quick, um, I know everybody has put their camera off that's on with us, but I will challenge you. I just got out of bed and just brushed my hair, so I didn't even brush my teeth. So I challenge you to put your camera on and we have a good conversation, but you don't have to. But
okay, Rena, I see you. I saw you
Uh,
brushing your hair.
Rena,
You're in your
I
easy
will have
chair.
my I will have my camera back on after I finish my breakfast.
Yeah, after you eat your breakfast. I usually turn mine off if I'm eating or drinking coffee. You're right.
I've
Okay,
had a
let's
busy
get started.
morning.
Oh, I'm sorry, Eleanor. Go ahead. Oh, oh, is it Bena or Bina?
Uh, Actually, it's Bettina, but I abbreviated it.
Okay, and that's Bina or
Yeah,
Bena?
Bina.
Bina. Okay,
Mm.
wonderful. Glad you're here. Okay, I also want to say this to you about these three steps. This is kind of an outline that I came up with myself as well as with my coaching clients that I look at quarterly or at least every year. Like January comes and I'm going to go through all these steps in my own life just to check and see what are all the charges on my credit cards? What do I need to change? What's the benefit of getting a credit card that gives you three times the credits versus one time the credit? That could mean quite a bit of money over the period of a year. Um, so what I'm sharing with you here are things that are, to me, may help you establish something new in your life, or it may just be a review that's really good for you to do at least annually. Okay? So let's look first of all, stabilizing income, whatever that is. You have to start with what is your income now? So you're going to look at what is your income, and you have to look at all the ways you have income coming in. If you're on Social Security like I am, that's one of them, or the investments I have, that's another. In the retirement area, we're going to break into each one of these. But we have to look at income first. What is your income? Jot that down if you have a note paper or just make a mental accounting of it. The other one is let's look at your expenses. We can call it a budget. We're not going to do it because we're not going to go out with all the payments due and the due date and all that. But we're going to look at monthly, what's our income? What's our expenses? So if we want to earn $5,000 more a year or a month, you have to define what that is. I'm assuming it's per month. What does that look like? What kind of expenses is that going to entail in order to earn that extra money? So, what investment do you have to make in yourself or in someone else or in a system in order to earn that extra money? So, these are the things that I'm hoping we can kind of expand in. If you want to create a new home, you want to buy or build a new home, we can have a session on how do you build a home. I've built over 150 of them. And I can show you the planning procedure, the bidding procedure. I've done subdivision work, so lot line adjustments, creating a subdivision in California, you name it. One thing you're going to find out about me, I have very few fears. If I have anything, I tend to overestimate my energy. And so when I go out on something, and in my first 45 years, I had to do everything myself because nobody could do it as good as I could. As good as Nola could meant did it my way. Because what I learned in working particularly and in my home life, people will have another way to do the same thing. And sometimes it's as good as yours, and sometimes it's better. So I had to learn that one. Yeah. Okay, so we're going to look at income and expenses. The other thing that's really critical to stabilizing your income is what's your debt. And looking at what that debt requires from you. Is it paid monthly? Is it a mortgage? If you're going to buy or move into a new home, what's that going to mean in terms of your income and expenses? If you're going to go out in the middle of nowhere and buy a piece of land for $2,500, what's it going to cost me to drill a well, put in a septic tank, connect to utilities, whatever it happens to be? So all this are things I've done. I'm willing to help everybody with whatever you want to do. We can have lots of fun over the next year or two. This is what I'm doing in my 80s. I'm trying to coach with all the things I know how to do so I can share them with people. And I'd rather talk to you than write a book, which I'll be doing anyway, but I'd rather talk to you and have it interactive. Because there's one powerful thing that's happened to me after the age of 70. I have much keener intuition. If you're open with me and honest with me, we join. There's a magic that happens. I can feel your energy. I don't judge it. And we create together what we do together. If you're willing to participate, if you just listen to me and, oh, that was a nice lecture, maybe I'll do that another Saturday. It's not going to work. You have to interact with me. I have to feel your energy. And it can come on Zoom. It doesn't have to be in person. And I do offer coaching sessions, 15 minutes, 30 minutes apiece. So, and if you've got a major issue you want to work with as we go through this segment, I do the first 15 minutes free of charge. You can pick up the phone, call me, and set up an appointment. I'm not trying to make a lot of money doing this work. I'm trying to empower, frankly, mostly women. That's who I mostly work with. Because in our society, in our patriarchal system, that women have supported as much as men, we've been the mothers in this culture that's promoted the patriarchy. And I have worked with that patriarchy and been raised by it. Women still need to have the support of other women. Okay. Anything anyone wants to come into? Because I'm not going to go into all the types of debt unless you have a question. Okay.
No, I think that was great. I am so happy to hear always your views. You always bring me to tears. So, I think there's something powerful here with all of us women here today, and we love men, but there is a magic that happens when women's intuition is feeling safe in the circle to be expressed. So I just wanted to comment. Go on.
Well, and I want to say this too, in studying Jungian psychology, which all of the therapists I tend to go towards, and I really recommend therapists. I don't use them a lot. Usually I've hired therapists that have been recommended by friends of mine or a doctor when I've gone through a trauma. When I was a single parent all those years, and my children had such a different view than what I wanted them to have, and I didn't know how to deal with them. I asked friends, who can I go see? And that's how I met David Rico. And we had 2 sessions. I think it cost me $100 for each one. In the second session, he said, Nola, you're wasting your money coming to me again. Go get a good friend so you can talk to somebody. And I did. The woman that referred me was a dean at the college, and she became my best friend. And we both took him to lunch. So what I want to say is Elizabeth's lived through a lot of the things of my changes over the years, from the hell-bent for leather real estate broker turned syndicator turned builder turned you name it. My daughters are right there with me.
I wanted to, I don't know if this is a good time for you to share one of your exercises you shared with me about keeping an envelope full of cash to watch how you spend money.
I still do that. Okay. Let's look at that before we move on to creating new income streams. I still use this basic thing. If I want to get in touch with, like, I spend a lot of money on food. I love to eat and I love to cook. I don't want to eat bought sweets and all that sort of thing. I eat very few sweets in comparison to most people. But I love organic food. I love to grow it. I love to shop for it. I love to try new recipes and I love to cook around the world. I'm always learning a different, whether it's African one week. In fact, the way my shopping list is, I'm saying, oh, I think I'm going to be Asian this week. Okay, which form of Asian do I want to go to? So I cook Japanese, or do I want to do Chinese? Do I want to do Szechuan? Do I want to? And so I've taken the time over the years to learn how to cook these styles. Most cases, I'm led to it synchronistically by the people I do business with. And I started in real estate in San Francisco, selling to mainly the Asian community after work. That's how I established my base. And so I learned how to cook all the different Asian techniques. Then I married a half Italian man, and his mother was from Italy, and she taught me to cook Italian. So so I spent a lot of money on food. Um, what Elizabeth is referring to, even today, I will put my food budget for the month. When I want to know how I'm spending money, I put an envelope in my purse based on the things I spend the most money on. So in my purse during this trial period of 1 month, I may have 2 or 3 envelopes. One is marked food, one is marked entertainment, one is marked travel, or whatever it happens to be. And then I put my budget in for that month, and I pay cash for everything. All the receipts go into the envelope and I tally them by the week. And then I'm seeing, oh, that month I spent $600 a month for one person on food. Another one I spent $300 a month for food. What was the difference? How did I feel? Why did I do that? Usually it's when I eat a lot less meat. So I recommend it highly. You have the whole record there. You can keep it or not. You could just keep your envelopes in your tax file, and that gives you a lot of tallies on what your expenses were. So that's one of my little, thank you, Elizabeth. One of my little traits.
I know some people use their check register, which Michelle was talking about, and I used to, but now I don't write checks, so I don't use my check register.
Yeah, and you can use your credit card. That's usually what I'm doing. If I usually get it. I use the credit card to get the points so that I can cash it in for travel or for payment of something else. But at times I just want to take tally every year of what am I doing with my money? What's my budget for this month? Sometimes I'll put the whole 2000 in cash in envelopes in my purse, and everything gets taken out of that, whatever it happens to be. All right.
Thank you for doing that. Of course, we don't want anybody stealing your purse. But I tend to use my debit card that way, just so I myself am more frugal if I have to get the card out. If I have cash, it's like free money. I feel like, oh, yay, let's go spend it. So for me, a debit card is like I'm more frugal and then I tally it up in my bank statement just to finish off that part of the conversation.
Yeah, no, that's good. Before I leave this step number 1, I really want to say, I think the one thing that made a huge change in my life, somewhere around my mid-40s to early 50s, is when I decided I would only live within my means. I would stop borrowing money. I would pay any credit cards off every month. And if I didn't need it, I didn't buy it. And there were radical changes because there I was trying to be an aspiring builder in Santa Barbara, and I had construction loans out on houses I was going to sell, and they were under construction. It was a horrific time to keep track of all the finances. And I had a bookkeeper and I had an attorney that worked in the office with me, but I still had to have the whole picture the understanding of the whole picture. And so as I came into more of a semi-retirement position, I'm still doing the same basic, is I want to know where I stand every month. And I don't want to keep adding debt onto debt. So I will start with this. How do you get in control of your finances and get more of what you want? Is you have to live within your means. Point number one. Point number two, you have to, within those means. That means, and I know this is a nasty word because everybody in my family, I try to get them to write a budget. So I no longer use the word budget. I want them to create a financial plan. Okay. And I really recommend you do it by the quarter. I do that so that
I
you
do
can
love
get
that word a lot better, financial plan. Thank you
financial
for
plan. Yeah.
adjusting for me.
Yes, everybody just goes like this for the word budget. Um, in your budgeting, if you decide you're going to live within your means, that means you got to make
I just want to suggest everybody mute because we can hear some background noise. I'm muting myself too.
Oh, I can't mute if I'm going to talk. Yeah, I'm following your direction. I have to mute. Okay. Okay. So you got to live within your means. That's point number one. And make the commitment with yourself. How long am I going to do this? In other words, you got to be kind too. When I was in the construction business and buying land and building houses and all that, I had to say, I'm not going to live within my financial means because I have a lot of money that's got to go out for interest payments and land costs and utility charges to put in wells or whatever I'm doing. But that means you have to create a budget that still is within your means. What that structure looks like, what that financial plan is. Now it's very simple. I don't owe any debt. My car is free and clear. My house is okay, so I don't make payments on those things unless I charged it that month. So my commitment to me is I pay everything off every month. If you can get to that point, the next step is, do you have your emergency fund done? And you should have in your somewhere, and I'll tell you about where in a minute because I'm not sure it should be in a bank. Um, Emergency fund, I started with, and I recommend you have at least 1 month to start with, set aside what it would cost you to live for 1 month without any income. What's that cost? And you should start putting that aside. And then once you have enough money, 3 months, then 6 months. I generally don't set aside more than 6 months. Whether you hold that in a savings account or you hold it in cash is up to you. If you do not hold it in cash, I highly recommend that in the culture that we have in this country and in the world right now, that you have at least 4 to 6 weeks worth of income in cash and figure out where you're going to put it, whether you're going to bury it, whether you're going to stuff it in your panty drawer. And it should not be in anything over than $10 denominations. When that ATM freezes and your bank accounts freeze and you can't get access to your money, what are you going to do? And you're going to find I believe we're all taken care of in a very positive way, but I also am very active with what's going on politically within the world, not just this country. And I'm seeing things that disturb me. And when they disturb me, I start making plans to take care of the people I care about. So you can take any of this information that you want to or not. Up to you. Okay, what's your total debt? Do you know the hierarchy, I call it? Look at the debt that you have, if you have any, and understand, is it excused in bankruptcy if you ever had to go into bankruptcy? Student debt is not. So you know that's a critical issue. And um, what you owe in taxes do not get forgiven in bankruptcy. Maybe you guys know this, but in the sense that we have a lot of tragedies going on with wildfires and floods and things that create the use of these things, such as bankruptcy. My family's gone through it several times because of emergencies that have happened that they had no control over. Um, I'm just saying that watch your debt. Credit card debt is excusable, but there's a lot of legislation going on that's trying to make that less excusable, because so much of it is happening. Okay. Now I'm going to go into real positive. If you find you've got a handle on what your income is and your expenses are, and that you're living within your means, you're probably going to find, like I did, that you sleep much better and you have a lot less stress. And you go to tea more often, or you treat yourself to things. I do not particularly like to buy clothes, so I'm not a clothes character. But food and special places to eat, or friends to share something with, or travel is definitely what I like.
Well, thanks for bringing up bankruptcy because, of course, I feel grateful and so proud of you for helping me through a bankruptcy after a wildfire. And, not everybody has a mom like I do who knows how to maneuver and fill out all the paperwork on bankruptcy and avoid paying lawyers big fees. So I just want to say that was not only my big lesson on living below my means, but also, easy to get into credit card debt. So that was, a big lesson on how to budget myself. So those were now they're magical words, but then they were threatening words to know how to budget. So I just wanted to say thank you for bringing that up, because some people might have to consider bankruptcy, and that is one of your amazing coaching skills too.
Well, and I want to thank you, Elizabeth. What I want to share too is the law scared me. That's why I studied it and I was interested in it, because it felt like this big looming thing when I started a business back in my 30s. And so I started taking law courses, and as a real estate broker, I could study the continuing education of the bar rather than continuing education of real estate brokers, because I found most real estate brokers very boring. Once you got the initial information down, I found law much more challenging, and it went into a lot of real estate, so it was compatible to me. So I would get my license renewals by studying law or accounting rather than very basic, very fundamental things about real estate. Even if you have a bankruptcy looming or a lawsuit, I've learned these things and I've experienced them personally. And I work as a coach with people that go through them. The law is set up that you can represent yourself, and all you have to do is get the courage to do it. And there are people in each of the departments you have to work with that aren't there to teach you how to do it. They're there to provide you with all the information you need. And right now online, you've got so much help. It's remarkable. Just like the last time we talked about estate planning, there's some excellent resources online if you need anything dealing with your own estate planning. So I just wanted to say that. The law is made up of two things, if you remember the last session. One is the letter of the law, that which is written or clearly defined in the actions of the parties. The other one is the spirit of the law. What was the intention behind whatever happened that created the controversy? So I just wanted to bring that. All right, let's move into creating new income streams. I think a few people said they wanted to earn more money. Okay, to me, the best way to become secure financially is to have more than one income stream. If you work a W-2 job and you're getting paid by the hour, that's one form of income. If you work on commission sales, that's another form of income. If you have a few bucks in savings and you get a 1099, or you have a service business, perhaps you're writing letters for the elderly. I did that for a while too. It's what was one of my services as a mediator. I charge $50 to handle a conflict here where I live in a senior area for people that couldn't handle it for themselves. So for $50, they got a letter from me and a conversation with whoever the problem was with. So there are ways to generate very creatively additional income. So what are the income streams? Your W-2 or your employment by someone you work for, or your 1099, or setting up your own business, or a investment of some kind, or the investments on how you're using your time and your assets to create money. And I hope we're going to have time to get into each one of these. When I set aside money in my general financial plan, is I work with ladder CDs or ladder treasury bills as a way to get 3 to 5% interest being earned on my money. And by a ladder, I'm talking about I don't just take money that I may need every year or in 3 years or in 2 years. And I start with 6-month CDs or 6-month treasury bills. And then I figure what's my plan financially that I don't need the money for at least 1 year to 2 years. Then I buy 1-year CDs or treasury bills. Okay. And in this way, other than a couple of times I've experienced, you can stay ahead of inflation. And what is inflation? It's where your money loses its value. And I happen to be, and I've been through a couple of them in the 70s, a lot of you have, where inflation went skyrocketing. And usually when inflation goes up, interest rates go up too. And one of the construction jobs I had going in the 70s, it cost me 21% to get a construction loan to finish building a house. And inflation was like 17%. Right now, our inflation is between 3 and 4%, depending on who you want to believe. My guess is it's probably closer to 6 or 7 because they do not factor in gas and home. There's 3 or 4 categories they leave out in order to make it look lower than it actually is.
I want to stop you there because there's two things I want to have you go over, if you don't mind, talking about what fiat currency is. I think this is a good time to define that. And then also going back to creating another stream of income, I want you to define in taxes, I know we'll get there, the difference of a business and a hobby. So I think that's going to interest some people.
Good. When you have IRS's basic, and this changes a little bit from it gets rewritten about every 7 to 10 years. So you have to check online what it is now, but I believe you have to earn money. Say you have a hobby. IRS looks at something that you do for pleasure that does not make a lot of money, or it doesn't make any money as a hobby. Therefore, you can't write off those expenses against your ordinary income. What's ordinary income? That which you earn from your jobs where you get a W-2 or a 1099, or you earn and a business basically would give you the 1099, or you earn from investments like buying stock or having savings accounts. I just
So
had a
that
senior moment.
that's okay. It helped me digest what you said because so often I know a lot of people are craft people. They buy a lot of
Yeah,
crafts. They do a lot of
yeah.
jewelry or making things, and in what you're saying, you wouldn't be able to write that off based on any income coming in unless you're
Yes,
selling it.
or let's say say you have a jewelry business or a craft business, and you want to start, and that's what I hope we're getting to. You want to create a plan that creates a business so you can sell your things online or through Etsy or something. Okay, so IRS wants you to do that. They want to build small businesses in the United States. So how do you do that to make it work? So say you want to start or expand your hobby, or you have a hobby you're already paying for, and you want to write off some of those expenses. Then create a business plan, a very simple one. What is it I want to do? I want to make this kind of a product, and I want to sell it for this amount, and so it yields this profit. In order to do that, this is your business plan. I have to invest some money into the equipment. I have to invest it into classes I need to take or people I may have to hire some of the services from. So, in order to create, say, a jewelry business, it may cost me 1 to 2 years of expenses. And I want to write that off. Well, what do you write it off against? You're not making any money, right? You write it off against your other income. And that is essentially called a tax shelter or something that shelters something other than what it earns. So I'm just saying we need to look at different streams of income so that we can have the ability to cover the income we're making, say on um, um, a regular job that you're earning an hourly amount or a monthly amount. And I think for earning Social Security, my Social Security essentially is not taxed because I'm retired now and I don't make a lot of income in addition to Social Security. But I still write off expenses I have for travel, for different things, and I get the ability to use all the money I make. Um, it's protected. So if you have a hobby, IRS says, well, over a period of, I believe it's 3 out of 5 years, you need to produce income. They might have changed it. They go back and forth. 5 out of 7 years. That means for 5 years out of 7 years, you have to show a profit in order to have that write-off, to have that expenses exceed income.
Yeah, and in my case, I've been going 30 years showing that I'm not making anything.
Well, then you could be challenged with an audit and they'll say you're doing a hobby, or maybe you have a nonprofit.
Just wanted to say. I do want to stop here for a second. I do want to address somebody's question in the comments. Thanks for writing about it. And we can go into some ways later because I know we're talking about streams of income, but a wonderful person wrote about if the banks do falter and you can't access money, if something happens, what do you do to protect that? Protect your money. And I know we're in a very precarious time. And this person is not from this country, so it might be different in Canada, which it seems like that's where you're typing in from.
Well, this has disturbed me because of the bank failures we've already had, and I think we've had a lot more than though it's been reported. And there are certain levels of banks. There are between 5 and 7 banks that are considered untouchables, and most of them deal both in this country and in other countries. And I don't have that list memorized, but they're basically Bank of America, Wells Fargo. Um, Help me out with the names of
The
other
U.S.
banks.
Bank,
Pardon?
U.S. Bank or Chase or
Chase. Chase is one of them. Anyway, there you can go on banks, the big guys, or um, the largest banks and their ratings under government, and they'll show it all to you. Those banks probably are safer to have money in, and I can send you the list, I just don't have it in front of me, than the regional banks in your community. There's two things I'd like to say you need to remember so that you're safe as you can be. No, there's several. Okay. There's insurance FDIC for banks. If you have 250,000 or less in a bank, you are covered by FDIC insurance. The problem becomes, what are the reserves of FDIC? If a lot of banks have a run on the money, the accounts, there's not enough FDIC insurance money, and I've researched this up till about 7 days ago, to cover if all the banks needed their money out all the time. It's just not held in reserve. But the government would stand in and, of course, print more money and give back at least 250,000. So you don't want to put more than 250,000 in any given bank. Credit unions have their own insurance, about the same amount, works about the same way. They're just different entities. So that might be worth to put some money in one of them and some money in another. Credit union versus banks. Because if there's a bank failure, or and I'm not talking about bank failures as much as there could be something within our economic system that would cause the government to close banks it happened in the 1930s. It happened again when Nixon took us off a gold standard, which I'll get to in a minute, which explains fiat currency. It's happened several times, I think 3 times since 1929. And so the banks just closed so that the government regulators can come in and figure out what the story is. Same thing with the stock market. Sometimes the stock market's been closed in the past, not often, but 2 or 3 times. So I just feel that you should always be prepared for that. Watch your limits. And have enough cash to take care of yourself, to buy gas, to buy groceries, without having to get a bank. That's just my position of what I feel is important to know. Fiat currency. Our system changed in 1972 under Nixon. We went off the gold standard. We did it once before, back after I think it was in 1932. And then we went back on the gold standard back then. Nixon took us off because there was so much debt out there, so much money out there, that we didn't have enough gold to cover it. So the money we call money is a fiat currency. It is actually not something that you can go and claim anything but fiat currency or other means of money paid by that government. I don't know if I'm explaining it well enough. Elizabeth, help me here.
That's fine. Yeah, I think it's just a paper debt saying that you trust. What is it? You put your trust in God, that it's got some backing.
Well, the problem now we had after the 2008 crash, we had a set of laws that wanted to make sure that banks could never fail, or if they did, it would not hurt the taxpayer, because we went in and made everybody whole, including all of the money managers that created the problem in the first place. So the problem with that is now most banks have been regulated to be allowed to include in their fiat currency, in the money they hold, they have the right to convert your monies above the FDIC limit to interest in the bank rather than cash owed.
And I know that's getting a little too complicated, but I know you gave me a definition of fiat currency the other day that was basically that nothing is backing it.
Yeah, it's the trust you have in the government. And when you see government debt at 130% of GDP, you wonder, what are we going to do? Sell off all our national parks and mineral rights to everything under the earth if we ever had to pay all that money back? No, it doesn't get paid back that way. It gets paid back with cheaper dollars through inflation, which is why we have the market look like this, up and down, up and down, up and down.
And I think what's valuable to me anyway is to learn how to protect myself with that whole conversation around inflation, which can very much get too complicated for my simple brain. So I want, some strategic steps to take that will help me stay above inflation, which you did mention about leveraging your money, which we can talk about in a little while. But I just want to do a little housekeeping check on energy. Do you want to take a little 3-minute break for some water and a bathroom? We've been going about an hour, so I know that we wanted to keep it kind of short, but we're about halfway through what we were going to talk about.
Anybody have a feeling? Are you okay?
Mainly for you, so you're the one talking the most.
That's true.
I
I'm
I know
gonna,
I
some
actually
people,
I actually have to go, so I
let's take
won't be
five
able to
minutes.
stay for the last half hour.
yeah, we'll
But
also be sending out a replay, so don't
yeah,
worry.
yeah.
If you
Sorry
get
about
on,
that.
I would just take yourself off video. There I am. That's a flower that grows in my front yard. Isn't it pretty?
Beautiful.
That's a cactus I have in my front yard.
All right, how about everybody take a bathroom break for 2 or 3 minutes and
Okay.
come back, rest your voice for a minute.
Well, the microwave just broke.
Oh,
Oh,
God.
you heard it?
No,
I'm
no
sorry.
breakfast for me. I'm gonna
I'm
have to
sorry.
have cold eggs.
I didn't turn my audio off. I made a cup of coffee.
Oh, no, I didn't hear you at all. I think Rena said that her microwave broke.
Oh, I thought Rita, I thought you heard the noise mine made.
Nope, I just tried to have a little breakfast. I mean,
Okay.
it's just another day. Something just breaks on me, I swear.
I love it.
Hey, Nola,
Yeah,
I know you guys have a lot more to go over, but maybe at the end you can talk to us, or if it's just me. Um, I'm trying to work on my credit so that I can get the
good.
I mean, I do not get it. It goes up and it goes down and no, and I do not get it. Okay, I'll be
No,
quiet now.
no, that's good. That's good. Um, I should have gone over credit in that first part.
And we can go in more depth at later times too. This is sort of an overview, and then we can get into more deeper, things to talk about as we continue on the year. If people want more in-depth study on, because I think building a business plan is another thing that I would like to get good at.
Yeah.
And I think one of the questions was buying gold. So I don't know if you want to address things that might be safe for people to invest in, but I know that's another topic that we're going to go deeper dive into later.
I think it's been considered a hedge against inflation for a long time and a safe way to place your money when fiat money gets devalued. And that's true. And right now, gold has had a big run since last year. Um, I made the decision this year not to buy gold. Most of my investment money is in real estate. Some of it's in stocks and some of it's in CDs and treasuries. Um, I think I've become a lot more conservative than I was 3 years ago. I was part of an investment club 3 years ago. Um, there's a social club here in Santa Barbara that was formed in 1892 by the ranchers that created Santa Barbara City, and I joined it about 6, 7 years ago because I was interested in a different slant as I went from working to retirement, a different position in the community. And so this club was full of all the bankers and the real estate people and the attorneys that I worked with over the years. So it was interesting for me. And I kind of crashed the investment club at this particular club called the club was called the Santa Barbara Club, and the investment team was the investment team. And they were all men. There were no women in it. I was the first one. I kind of crashed a group of all men and went in with strategies such as, okay, everybody, it's time to buy Chinese stocks. And everybody went. And so I did research on everything Buffett was buying, which if you're into investments at all, I follow Buffett because he's one of our oldest investors. I think he's in his 90s now, but he's made a ton of money. And I happen to agree with him 80 or 90% of the time. And he's pulled most of his money out of the market, out of banks, out of all this, and he's just sitting with these billions of dollars in cash. And I figured, well, if he can sit with all that money in cash, I'll sit with at least what money I can afford in cash. And so I haven't been in the market for a while, and I haven't had gold for a while. Um, if you have that, they say gold is a thing to buy with maybe 10% of your assets. It's not something to put everything into. Um, I happen to like a couple of gold stocks. And I'm glad for the question. What I'd like to do with Elizabeth's and my schedule is to create another workshop that meets monthly that's just investment. So we could and I the club I'd like to format it like what I came what I came from with the Santa Barbara Investment Club, and that was we all researched different parts of investing and then reported. We met weekly. I would say we could probably meet monthly. We don't invest money together. We just learn about it. It's an educational seminar. And we all contribute something by learning. If you want to go into Bitcoin, and if you want to go into utility stocks, if you want cash flow, which is what I'm more interested in now, which of the investments do you want to put your money into that pays a dividend to at least keep up with inflation, so your money isn't losing power. So
Thank
gold,
you.
I won't speak too much with gold. If you really want to know much about it, go on YouTube and put in there a search for gold, and you'll get just about a lot more than I can tell you, and you can get it in 20 minutes.
Yeah, and I've been following a mentor in the stock market, and I'm going to share some of that in our monthly investment group on what I've researched. And, there might be still another run at gold, but he recommended a while ago for us to get into silver and gold, and people did make quite a bit of money, but that it's going to slow way, way, way down. It's not that it's a bad investment, but if you're into cash flow, it might not be the first thing to go invest in. But
Yeah.
anyway, as a security, it might be why people want still to go into gold and silver. They think
Long
that's
range,
hmm
long term, it's a good investment. But I don't know what long term means to you. And I don't have a lot of extra investment money that I want to sit long term, 10, 15, 20 years, or leave it to my kids. I'd
Well, yeah. How
rather,
old is Warren Buffett?
pardon?
How old is Warren Buffett? I mean,
92. Yeah.
so he's going to have a different way of investing. I mean, maybe leaving a legacy, but yeah, he's going to
True. True.
invest differently at 92 than he did at 30, right?
Well, that's true of me too. And even what the difference, I took a lot more risk at 45, 55, even 70 than I do now at 84.
Yeah, exactly. And this might be, our final roundabout to close up our talk is to end with talking about our leveraging of our savings. If you feel like you want to move into that.
Yeah, I also want to cover the three things we have of value. And that's really what I want. And I want to talk a little bit about values. What are your values? What do you believe in? I don't want to own oil stocks. I'm sorry. They'll pay you well, but I don't believe in endless drilling of oil. I don't want to invest in the pipelines that carry all this and have total disregard for the environmental consequences. I saw that when I traveled across the US in those years that I was camping. Is I saw so much damage by the way people misused our assets, our lakes, and our areas. And it happens a lot in the native people's reservations. They just put these pipelines right under their water sources and then it bleeds through. Um, the three things that you have of value are your time, your talents, and your assets. Most people focus on your assets. If you want to make more money, you better focus on the time and the talents because the assets you already have, yes, you can work with them, such as doing 1031 tax deferred exchanges so that you're not paying taxes on when you trade up. But for the most part, the two things we have the most of that we have to use as widely as possible is our time, number one, and our talents, number two. And under talents, it means if you like doing something and you do it well, what kind of business could you run with it? What other classes could you take in it? What more could you learn from it? That's what got me into studying, and I became a paralegal. I was going to be an attorney, and then I kept putting it off because I was making more money than my attorney. And my attorney said, "Why do you want to be an attorney? You're making more money developing real estate." Okay. Most of us want to become real estate developers that are attorneys because you guys hire us. I said, you got a good point there. So over those years, when I worked with all those attorneys, I became a paralegal. I worked with enough of them in court and out and in contracts that I have the skills of a paralegal. Then I realized I didn't want to just be a paralegal or a business person. I wanted to learn mediation because what I was at age 30 or 40 was, you're going to do that to me, I'm going to do it back to you bigger. So I was, very masculine in my approach of the way I handled conflict, you know. And I wanted to learn a much quieter, more loving way to do it. So I went to the Beatitudes of Christ is one of the things I read over and over again. And the second was the poems of Rumi, if any of you discovered Rumi. Um, and I learned how to mediate, how to come in with win-wins. And I've done business and personal mediations. I hope that answers your questions. Um,
I think it can get a little complicated when you throw out terms like tax deferred and investments. And I'm glad we're breaking it down into each month a theme. And I think this one is definitely starting us off with looking at budgets and a business plan and things we can do right away to assess where are we at right now in our own spending and our own savings to then go to the next step, which is going to be next month on creating an income flow, income stream, and get more in depth with that. So I know today we don't have to go dive in too deep on building a business or look at your talents or the investment club and the investments, because we're going to do that next month and the month after. But I did want to leave people with that sense of savings leverage that we were talking about, and to invite people to use AI, which is very daunting as well. That, hold on, somebody's calling me. Okay. To use ChatGPT or other AI that they're coming out with or that are already here, Gemini and Claude. But upon your direction, I think it was brilliant to ask AI some questions about, how to leverage your savings. In what ways can you build off of what you do have? So I don't know if you want me to read some of that or you want to speak to that right now.
Yeah, I'd like to introduce you to that or introduce them and then leave it with you, Elizabeth.
Yeah.
When I teach about money to young people, I always start with savings. What you put aside every single month towards a savings. Now, whether you take that savings and you buy a piece of stock or you buy a gold coin or what is it you do with that? It should be a program that creates a habit of saving. And that's one of your income streams. If you, and I want Elizabeth, we talked about it yesterday with the kids. My talk with the high school students, I did this during um, I still have some brain issues. Yeah, my brain issues from my stroke. There's
Rights
parts of the
Institute.
No, I'm thinking of what we just went, COVID. Okay.
Yeah.
During COVID, I taught high school students about money, and I did one called How to Become a Millionaire. And that's what I wanted Elizabeth to talk to. How much you save every month determines what you can collect in your lifetime. And if you get in the habit of saving, whether it's through investing in other things besides savings accounts or in a savings account, Elizabeth is going to speak to that. I asked her to because I figured my voice would start failing. Go ahead, Elizabeth.
Yeah, I remember in my economics class in high school, senior year, last semester of class, the economics teacher said, well, if you start at 18 putting $100 away every month, you will be a millionaire by the time you're 50. And of course, I'm 58 going, damn it, why didn't I put $100 away starting at 18? So, there is a compound effect of saving money if you're smart with it. But what I was referring to with the AI is using ChatGPT to put in some examples. It gave me some great feedback, and one of them was a prompt that my mom left me with, which is if you save $600 a year for 20 years, and that's putting away $50 a month at a 5% interest rate, after 20 years, you're going to have $19,840. And you've only contributed $12,000 to that investment. So you're making a growth of $7,840. Now, if you take that same amount and you're getting 7% interest over 20 years, that would be $24,600, and the total you contributed was the same, $12,000. So the growth is $12,600, and that is actually greater than the amount of money you saved. Greater than the money you put in. So that difference of 5% to 7% does make a big difference, especially over time, that it grows your money even more, like the compound effect. Now, of course, my mother wanted me to plug in the numbers. If you save $3,000 a year to put into savings over 20 years, that's $250 a month. And over 20 years at 5% interest, that's $99,200. And the total amount contributed was $60,000 over those 20 years. That's $3,000 a year times 20. And the growth from that investment is $39,200. I might be losing